Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I won't lie, I don't like this sequel much.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which released in 1986, from writers Tobe Hooper and Kit Carson, and director Tobe Hooper. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 follows on 13 years after the first movie. We follow Dennis Hopper playing Lieutenant Lefty Enright, who's trying to investigate the murder of his brother's children back in the original movie. He comes across Stretch, a radio host played by Caroline Williams, who's happened to have a recording on tape of what quite possibly be another chainsaw attack. As the Sawyer family start to chase after Stretch, Lefty has to step in with his saws to try to bring them down.
I'm bringing it down! Down, down! Bring it all down!
So, director Tobe Hooper had signed like a 3-deal contract with Canon Films.
Right.
And part of that contract was that Tobe would have to make a sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
And Tobe, from the get-go, did not want to recreate what he did in the original film. He didn't think he possibly even could. Lightning in a bottle kind of thing. And why just do what you've done already? So he wanted to do a huge satire, and it was going to be called Beyond the Valley of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it was going to be a satire in the vein of Motel Hell. And Canon Films were like, yeah, that's great. And then when they read the whole script, they were like, oh, that's not great. Actually, don't do that. We want you to do what you did in the first film.
Yeah. We're paying.
So there's kind of a compromise. And this is the middle ground, I suppose, compared to where Tobe wanted to go and where the studio wanted to go.
Yeah.
And, of course, when this film came out, it was divisive. A lot of people immediately took a disliking to this film because how much of a departure tonally it is from the iconic original film.
Yeah. Man, this one, I struggle with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I've seen it a number of times, but I just lose interest in it halfway through. Like, it's got a lot going for it, and when you watch, like, edited clips, you might go, oh my god, that looks really mad as fuck. That looks crazy. That looks like nothing like the first movie. And the first movie is so iconic. But then you actually spend the hour and 40 minutes actually sitting there watching the film and you go, oh my God, how much drugs was Tobe Hooper on when he was making this? Like you said, it's part of that free film deal, isn't it? It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Invaders from Mars, and Life Force.
Yeah.
You know, and I like all three to a varying degree, but TCM 2 is like at the bottom of the barrel because mostly what I remember is the girl standing on the tower at the end, Dennis Hopper with his mad chainsaws, and fucking Leatherface wiggling.
So now you've just put all those clips in context. I'm like, that's bloody brilliant.
yeah, but it shouldn't be, because like I said, like coming off the back of the first one, it's so real, it's so raw. It just, you know, it's something like you read in a newspaper, something horrific. And like you said, yes, I'm sure Tobe Hooper sat there and went, look, I just can't beat what I did the first time round. But what made him write this?
I think you mentioned it already.
Yeah, true.
I know nobody's listening because y'all are all zooming, but I got a shot of hot rock and roll for you anyway.
Well, this film at least starts in the vein of the original film with the narrator and the text crawl explaining the events of the first film, how the survivor told everyone about what happened and then they locked her up after she went catatonic.
Yeah.
And now all these years later, there's still been random disappearances and
bizarre chainsaw attacks that they can't explain.
Yeah, so Texas is haunted by the events of the first film, yet no one can prove it's ever actually happened. Despite the first film also being like, didn't the poster say it was based on a true story?
Yeah. Loosely based on what the Ed Gein stuff and all that kind of stuff. But we then follow a couple of college kids driving along with their guns, shooting signs and drinking while driving. And they call up the radio station that Stretch works at because She takes radio requests, and the fact that like her radio station is like one of the lowest radio stations as well. So, you know, a lot of people listen to her, but they don't really listen to her, if you know what I mean. And so these guys call up and they start kind of being vulgar and horrible, and she can't hang up the phone unless they hang up.
What?
Yes.
You're a radio station and you can't sever the call of somebody calling the station? What?
Yeah, somehow they have to keep these guys on the line until they hang up. And I'm like, okay, I get seen the film a few times. This is the plot point, because we then lead into the night section where these two same lads are driving along and they have happened to hung up the radio station, but they've now called back. And Stretch is just like, oh, guys, stop it, hang up. You know, I can't play any music until I get rid of you or whatnot. And her colleague, LJ, is trying to do the technical side. So whatever he did the first time round
Right.
isn't working.
Maybe let's not label some of those plugs. I don't know. But I have to say, how quickly did you hate these two idiots in the car?
Man, I already hated this movie because the music that played over the intro was just so grating that I tried not to just get annoyed with everything that was going on in the movie, but I couldn't help myself because what was happening in the movie was not what was labelled. It was supposed to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I've got two wild boys, in a car with a gun.
Well, that was the thing for me, was the film just totally went, okay, you loved the characters in the first film, you root for them, you're behind them, you're scared with them when the horrible things happen. In this film, it's like, you hate these two from the get-go, so that when horrible things start happening to them, you're rooting for the chainsaw.
Yeah, but that's also the problem, because horrible things don't happen to these two. What happens is that earlier in the day, they had played chicken with this random truck on the road and forced it off the road. So then when it turned to nighttime, this random truck is now on this bridge, and it starts kind of chasing the boys down the bridge while it's reversing and they're driving the right way, and they're also still on the phone to Caroline Williams' character Stretch, so she can hear this while they're going. Now, Leatherface will appear on the back of the truck, but you don't know it's Leatherface because he's holding a dead body in front of him.
It would turn out to be the hitchhiker from the original film who went under a truck.
Right, so they've been carrying that body around for 13 years.
It's family.
Ah, okay. And he starts chainsawing the car. Now, I want to say that it's a gory death, but actually it happens off screen, that you don't actually realise that Leatherface has caught the driver with his chainsaw.
Yeah, okay, so we don't see the kill, but it's still a very gory death. The top half of his head slides off.
Oh yeah, it does. It's a great effect, but the build-up to it was a bad execution that, personally, I couldn't tell if it had been the chainsaw or if they'd randomly hit something.
Well, with the fact that he was being attacked by a chainsaw, I kind of...
Yes, but Leatherface spent so much time chainsawing the door and the roof that he could have killed them at any point while he was wiggling on the back of this truck. One of them even has a gun.
Right.
And he shoots at Leatherface just once. And it's not even like they die by Leatherface, because we don't see him actually get hit by the saw. We just assume he did. And then the car crashes off screen.
Yeah, I mean, the film was made on a budget of like 4.5 million, which seems kind of minuscule, really.
Well, in fairness,
by today's standards,
they had enough money to hire 3 different guys to play Leatherface in this movie. This guy on the bridge sequence is actually a different guy to the guy that they'll have for the close-ups. You've got Bill Johnson, who's doing the close-up shots of Leatherface, and then you've got Bob Elmore, who I'm assuming will do the runaround sequences with the fighting with Dennis Hopper later on in the movie. And then this shot is Tom Morga. And what was really interesting about him is he's played Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers and Leatherface, but has been replaced in all 3 of those roles.
Yeah, poor bugger.
So Dennis Hopper then comes across the car wreck and he's like, there's something strange about these saw-like marks on the side of this door. I'm sure I've saw these marks before. Where have I saw these marks before? And then the other cops come up and they go, oh, those can't be chainsaw marks. You're just looking too much into it.
It's Captain Exposition who's just like, hey, it's nothing like what happened to your niece and nephew in the previous movie.
13 years ago that you've been investigating. All of these random strange deaths and disappearances that happen in Texas happen. It can't all be some kind of chainsaw wielding, massacring family. And what really annoyed me is like this section set up Dennis Hopper. Like, I like Dennis Hopper. I think he's a great actor. And when he steps into a role, he makes it his own. But even the worst movies, he can't elevate. I mean, look at Land of the Dead. And in this, he's like talking to this cop, like, yeah, I'm going to carry on my investigation, even though he's not a cop. He's just doing this as a personal favor to his brother, I suppose. And it sets him up in this scene, like, yeah, I'm going to utilize all the tools I can. I'm going to get the news out there. I want them to, be found. 2 seconds later, Stretch turns up at his hotel because she's read in the newspaper that this guy is looking for evidence about the chainsaw wielding family.
And she's like, hey, I recorded this off the radio last night. Have a listen.
Have a listen to this. And he goes, no, go away.
Right.
I'm drinking myself into a stupor because I suppose I'm suffering from some kind of traumatic stress of my brother's family being chainsawed?
Yeah.
You say yeah, like that's what they told us in the sequence. They don't.
I mean, I don't.
Because he doesn't go back and do another drinking
because
sequence
he starts
again.
looking at his hand and talking about some religious stuff.
I was just like this. For me, it would have been the perfect time because they will hook up in about 10 more minutes. This would have been the perfect time to set up the background. Why are you here? Because I'm looking for the killers of my brother's, kids. Okay, listen to this tape. They would have listened to the tape, and he could have said, "Oh, that could have been anything." But you can blatantly hear it's a fucking chainsaw.
Like a buzzsaw.
Hey, hang up, man.
So she gets kicked out the door and told to go away, and heads back to the radio station, and Dennis Hopper goes to buy some chainsaws.
It's a great sequence. He's just in there with these power tools, like, yeah, this one now. How about this one? How about this one? And the guy's like, well, they're all filled with gas. I'm going to try them out.
Yeah.
And he's just out there, like, hacking away at it like a maniac.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
I couldn't tell if the owner of the store was getting scared or turned on.
I think both.
Oh, my banana.
He was very excited.
Yeah.
And then Dennis Hopper goes to the radio station and goes, hey, Stretch, how that tape you got? Yeah, you should probably play it non-stop on the radio tonight.
Yeah,
She's like, probably can't do that. Like, probably get shut down. It's probably against all of these regulations. He's like, do it anyway. Bye.
But I can put it in as a request. If you request it,
you have to play it. It's in the books.
I can do that. So that's what she does. She goes back in. She's working nights and she puts the tape on, and so people can hear the two kids in the car get attacked by somebody with a buzzsaw and die.
Not forgetting also, we've also cut away to the head of the Sawyer family.
Yes.
Who's gone to a chili cook-off.
Chili cook-off, yeah.
And he wins first place, beating Oklahoma, I think it was. And of course, Stretch is there with her partner doing, capturing the news. But yeah, he also gets a phone call then.
I loved it. He's driving along in his van,
yeah,
and he just has this big phone in front of his van with him. Like that's not even a car phone. Like, how does that even work?
I don't know.
But I'm assuming it's Chop Top that
who calls him. And he's like, oh, you fudge baggers, what are you doing?
Yeah. Like Jim Siedow, his language in this movie, they just let him. It must have just been a callback thing, wasn't it? It was just a case of...
he is still in character from the first film. He hasn't really changed very much.
Yeah, totally. But it's like his character and his lines don't really build anywhere. It just feels like they've got him in there to pay homage back to the first movie. Like he's playing the head of the family, but I don't think any of the three of them that they've got going are really the heads of the family. They're certainly not the fucking brains of the operation. I don't even know who's really actually calls the orders, but he gets all pissed off and tells them, whoever's on the phone, that they've got to go and deal with the situation. So then we cut back to Stretch at the radio. She finishes off playing the tape and carries on playing just her music. And LJ's just like, oh, well, okay, I'm going to go off and get some coffee. Are you staying here waiting for your friend Lefty? And he acts like she's got like a secret affair going on.
Right.
I'm like, have you not seen fucking Dennis Hopper? He's like 60. I don't think she's going to be giving herself away to him in this film. But
there was, in the original script, there was going to be a revelation that they were father-daughter.
Oh.
But all of that got cut and removed, and so there's nothing, you can't really tell from the film.
See, I think that would have actually been a better plot to keep it going. I think if he'd been her dad and just a local cop, and then she'd got attacked, and so then he'd gone to rescue her from the family, that would have been better. But you know, all these callbacks to the first movie, it just makes me want to watch the first movie. And as we are getting, this is just the 40-minute mark. It feels like it's been like fucking days. It's not. This is just 40 minutes where LJ leaves to go get coffee and Stretch is left at the radio station on her own. She hears a strange noise. She goes out to find out what it is. And we are introduced to Bill Moseley's character, Chop Top. Now, this is probably one of the more iconic characters from this movie, more than Leatherface, is because Bill Moseley, obviously, House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, I mean, Boar, I suppose, if you want to go that far. You know, he's head to toe just made up in fucking effects.
Yeah. It's Tom Savini who's done the effects here as well, and it's I mean, he looks like a zombie already.
Yeah,
it's like he'll easily transition later into Rob Zombie's movies, of course. Now he was so up for the role that years beforehand he filmed his own short video as an audition. Basically, I think it was the Texas Chainsaw Manicure.
Right.
And he auditioned as the hitchhiker.
Okay, yeah.
And showed it to Tobe Hooper, and Tobe was like, if I'm ever doing another one, I'll give you a call. And so he called him as soon as he was making this one, which is brilliant. And he delivers his awe in this role. He stands out. He is so larger than life.
Totally.
He is frightening. He has that unhinged, chaotic, bottled energy.
Yeah.
And I love that his prop, he's got this coat hanger that he's burning the end of it and scraping his scalp with it. And you're like, what is under that hair, that wig? It's disgusting. And he is playfully trying to scare, I suppose, Stretch at this point. Basically asks for a tour around. She's trying to show him to the exit, but then he wants to find where the vault of all the music's kept. And this, I'll say, is a really good, genuine jump scare.
It's great.
One of the only real horror moments, I guess, in the film, where the light comes on and Leatherface just bursts out of the darkness, chainsaw going. And it was like, wow, the movie started.
Yeah, he starts chasing Stretch around the radio station, and we even get LJ coming back at one point as well, don't we? And they just bash his head in with a hammer. But this is where it can start to highlight that the violence and the gore has been dropped majorly from this movie, because, well, we've got LJ on the floor being bashed in the head, and so he's wiggling and you've got blood going all over the place, but you're only really seeing it when it's cutting back to him, and he takes ages to die. He doesn't even die here. No. Like, he takes like 8 smashes to the head from the hammer. Like you said, Bill Moseley is really giving it all of his character, and LJ does not die. Leatherface chases after Stretch, and she locks herself into a room, which I thought was cool because it's got the metal door, like from the first movie. And he's just outside trying to chainsaw this door like a fucking idiot. And he keeps wiggling every now and again and making the squealing noise. And even when he smashes through the wall and gets into the room with her, you're like, okay, here we go. We're going to get some gore. No, he chainsaws a bathtub that she's sitting next to, full of ice and beer. And it just feels like a really elongated sequence that they didn't have to, because he's chainsawing it and it starts to become sexualized as well. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. You're not scary and you're not even funny. I stopped laughing once you cut away from Chop Top, because I wanted some genuine fear and violence. That's what I want from Leatherface. But no, his chainsaw stops working. And she starts talking to him like, not good. Like, once her screaming subsided,
Oh yeah, she screams a lot in this film.
she screams a lot, and this is just the first time. She will scream more, and by the end of the movie, you're just like, I'm done with her scream. Like, she's no Laurie Strode. She's not even close to Heather Langenkamp, honestly. I wanted to know what her genuine fear was
At the chainsaw?
But it's off.
Yeah, but it's still pressed in a very sensitive location.
Yeah. But he even doesn't press the moment from that. Like, he gets it all revved up. Like, it looks like he might finish, I suppose, while he stood there, because he gets overworked up. And then he gives us a wiggle and he runs off. Now, why does he then go back to Chop Top, who's made it perfectly clear over the last 5 to 10 minutes that he wants Leatherface to finish her off? Finish her off! Finish her off! Did you finish her off? Yeah, no. No, he didn't. She's still alive back there.
Leatherface has fallen in love. We're going to get Pride of Leatherface. So the two of them, they drag off the other guy and then they drive off, and Stretch, she comes out and she's like, well, I should probably follow them.
Yeah. I've been waiting for Lefty to turn up to obviously try to help us capture the family, and he's not turned up.
And he's no-showed, yeah.
And so I've got to go rescue LJ or at least try to find it. I can't let them get away, basically.
Yeah.
So she does. She chases after him. And then when she gets... Oh, my God, it was so fucking stupid. She gets there, and they are driving off in the truck. She gets out of hers, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And then she's basically chased by Lefty.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't know who's driving the other car.
Can she not see the giant Stetson fucking cowboy hat on his head?
Hey, she was panicking, okay? She wasn't focused. And so she ran onto a death trap.
Like, I suppose, in fairness, you could think it was Chopped Up because he picked up a hat.
Yeah.
He picked up LJ's hat, but he's in the truck with Bubba, Leatherface, who's driving. So I'm like, well, that's blatantly fucking Lefty. And so when he stops and he goes, Stretch, and she's like, oh, where were you? And then a trapdoor opens up and she falls into it because they're at this Texas battlefield place. It's basically an abandoned amusement park.
Right.
I get lost in this location at the end.
Well, it's the fact that she falls, and then she lands, and then she falls and finds a skeleton, and then she falls. I'm like, how deep is this place?
Exactly.
And she ends up in, well, the basement of a house of 1,000 corpses.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, the set design here, I think is fantastic. Like, it's still not as iconic as the first one with all of the, the furniture made out of skin and bones.
Yeah.
But you can still see it here. There's lots of callbacks to hanging bones and skeletons in seats and stuff.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this set. I thought it was really, really fun to explore. We don't really get to spend that much time with it because there's so much action going on in front of the camera, and there's so many weird moments happening on camera as well. You don't really get to focus on anything.
Well, that's it. This third act, is the big climax. And so you have Dennis Hopper with his 3 chainsaws running around the place, chainsawing as many wooden planks that are holding up the roof as he can because he wants to bring it down on top of it. Bring it all down. Because what was it? He found a wall that was bleeding, and then when he opened it up, there was just blood and entrails behind it.
Yeah.
How long it's been there, I don't know.
It's gotta have stunk.
It should have stung. I mean, it looks cool,
yeah,
I suppose, if you like that type of thing, but
the big moment is him finding the corpse of Franklin.
That was the best bit. Yeah. It was a great callback.
Yeah, I don't know how that flashlight was still operational, but
I like the fact that the skull's got like a kind of a jet crack down of it, so because you never saw that in the first movie. Your imagination just did it, so I like that. But we're cutting back to Stretch again, who's basically in the larder of the fucking Sawyer family where they store all the meat that Drayton Sawyer uses for his chili. They're planning on making burgers as well for the local.
Yeah, and I think this
population.
is a pretty horrific moment where she is hiding and Leatherface is there peeling the skin back and then hanging it on hooks. It's still pretty grotesque.
Yeah, it's cool, but it's like the body is off shot. I know, like we said, Tobe Hooper was afraid he couldn't recapture, what he did in the first one. But some of the angles in this movie, you can see that he took from what he'd learned from the first movie. So you don't have to obscure the bodies like that. You could have had Leatherface kind of hunching around and still pulling the gore off and things like that. I liked when LJ stands up.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's not fucking dead. And before he gets up, Leatherface does come across Stretch. And like we said, he's supposed to be kind of in love with her, so he doesn't want the rest of the family to find her.
He puts his face on her, picks her up, does a dance with her, and then hides her when the other family members come down, and he's like hunched over, like, don't move, like they won't see you.
Yeah, they won't see you if we put this face. And so it kind of reminds me of Devil's Rejects, where she's walking around still with the mask and her arms are tied and stuff.
Yeah.
And LJ gets up, and he's missing his face and he's missing the flesh off of his body, and that is kind of scary. That's what you've been wanting to see in this movie. By this point, I kind of cared for LJ, I suppose. They hadn't given him anything other than that fucking fry cottage that he'd made.
Well, it was the fact that it was all the spitting he did. I was like, I don't like you. You're disgusting.
Oh,
I mean, even when he was being hammered in the head, he was still spitting. Like,
and he does it as well when his face is missing too. I'm like, doesn't that sting? But he helps her get the rope off.
Yeah.
And then he dies.
Finally. Does he though?
I'm hoping so. I don't think we ever see him again. And then she's trying to escape, isn't she? But she's getting lost in the tunnels.
Yeah. And so she ends up getting chased by the family that are now aware that she's there. And at the same time, she runs off and Dennis Hopper's still destroying the scenery, which collapses. And then she's then trapped by the Sawyers.
So stupid.
Yeah.
Like he was literally just round the corner, chainsaw in this block, which causes the tunnel to collapse in front of her, and so she's stuck now.
So now we get to recreate the famous dinner scene from the original movie.
Yay!
And we bring out Grandpa.
Yay!
And we give him the hammer. And he's still unable to hit the victim with the hammer.
Yeah. He's 137 years old, and he just lives on blood. And this whole ending sequence just goes tits to the wall, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, there's very few movies I can think of that has a chainsaw duel.
Tiger on the Beat, which actually got a better one with Chow Yun-Fat.
Fair.
Yeah. But this one's not too bad. The two of them are fighting on the table with their two chainsaws. He ends up ramming. Dennis Hopper rams his chainsaw into the gut of Leatherface, and Leatherface is still fighting with the chainsaw in his gut. And it looks fun, but personally, the effect is
it's not great, but it was fine. At least it showed us what was supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
And that is, for all intents and purposes, the death of Leatherface.
Yeah, because Dennis Hopper has now got to use his two baby chainsaws, which is kind of Dead Rising.
I love that he was like, he had them on holstered, both of them.
And when he come into the room, he'd already shoved the chainsaw into the butt of Drayton Sawyer, so he's heavily injured, hiding underneath the table, and he grabs one of the corpses because that corpse happens to have a hand grenade still
I think
attached
that was
to it.
Nubbins, the hitchhiker.
Oh, the hitchhiker, right.
Yeah.
And what had been revealed as well, what we hadn't brought up, was Bill Moseley's character, Chop Top, has got a metal plate in his head from Vietnam or a car crash.
Vietnam.
I'd always liked the idea that Chop Top, I know it's not, but I always liked the idea that Chop Top was the hitchhiker from the first one, and that they'd revived him with this metal plate and helped him.
Sure.
I think that would have helped keep, who is he and where has he come from if this is the original family from the first one?
He was in Vietnam during the events of the first film.
Right, and so then he's come back and rejoined up with them and stuff like that. See, there's a lot of back history and stuff that isn't told to us in this movie, which was made up, I suppose, either released after the movie was released to fill in gaps. It's so overshadowed and edited so badly.
Well, it is because of the zaniness and craziness of what's actually happening on screen.
Well, that's it, but stay the focus on one thing, either story or craziness. I can't keep up with both.
Yeah, because the Kirkwell, he cooks that grenade and blows up everyone off screen.
Yeah, off screen.
All that's left now is Stretch and Chop Top, who's chasing her up to the top of the amusement park. And then, well, I guess we meet the eldest member of the family, Grandma.
Yeah. Is she alive? Is she a desiccated corpse? We don't know. She sat there in the chair with that chainsaw.
Chop Top gets pretty upset and then says, "You've killed Grandma."
Yeah.
And that's because Stretch has taken the chainsaw from her and then started attacking Chop Top. Cuts him up, kicks him off the side. He falls off screen to his death. And then Stretch wields the chainsaw, a crazed, panicked dance, combining the end of the first movie again.
Yeah, I suppose the ending is supposed to say that she's just gone crazy, just like the girl at the end of the first one, but she's also like recreating the image of Leatherface with the chainsaw and stuff. And I just remember her being on that tower. I remember the first time watching it, I think I fell asleep towards the end and woke up and she was there on the tower. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck's going on? Where did the tower come from?
Yeah.
They were on the ground 10 minutes ago.
Caroline Williams, she would actually go on to play Stretch a fair few more times after this.
Oh, really?
She does appear in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 for a brief moment as a news reporter as she walks off. And what did she want to be in this film? She wanted to be a fully fledged news reporter.
Yeah.
So the director of the third film was like, we're going to keep your character alive. You're not in the movie, but just in case they like make 10 more of these, we're showing the audience you're still around.
Nice.
She never did reappear in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise again, but she did reprise the role in Hatchet 3.
Oh.
And then she would also reprise the role of Stretch in Sharknado 4, The Fourth Awakens. Wielding a chainsaw!
Is it better than this? Is it better than Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2?
No.
Oh, wow, okay. That's open for debate, I suppose.
But hey, it just goes to show the longevity of a character when an actor gets behind it, and
Yeah.
It wouldn't be Texas without a chainsaw massacre!
Iain, what were your favourite scenes from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2?
Wow. Ironically, it's a stretch.
Oh.
I really wanted to have some favourite scenes in this movie, but I started to lose the fun, like I said, about 40 minutes in, just as Leatherface appeared. I just felt like, the first one had such great pacing and everything, the sound and the audio, there was tension, fear from the opening of the movie, even leading up to that hammer sequence in the first movie. You were on edge. With this one, I wasn't on edge. Like the boys getting killed in the car, I didn't care for them, and I didn't care for how they revealed Leatherface at that point. I'll be honest, I think my favourite sequence in the movie is when Dennis Hopper comes across the body of Franklin, and it's a callback, and you're like, oh, okay, so they brought Franklin with them and have carried him around with them for 13 years. Like, wouldn't they have eaten him?
Well, they probably did.
No, he's still there in the chair.
Well, the skeleton is.
So they took the skeleton out, ate him, and put the skeleton back in the chair.
Well, they didn't eat the skeleton. They didn't eat the chair either. But
no. I suppose no, I'm good. I'm not even going to take any chances to try to explain or look at or work out any other sequences. I am good. Gary, yours?
Hey man, they recycle and they don't waste their food.
I'm sure.
Make beautiful furniture out of it.
I'm not getting into it.
There are so many memorable and fantastically brilliant scenes in this film. I struggle to name my favourites. Most of them are going to include Dennis Hopper losing his mind, chewing up the scenery with his chainsaw. I love the moment where he turns up at the place and he's got his chainsaw and he just runs screaming at the front entrance. Bring it down! Bring it all down! It's the moment where he turns up to Cook and Cook's like, who are you? And he's like, I am the Lord of the Harvest. And Cook's like, who's that? It's just the line, like it's just on an upward crescendo of silliness and bizarreness. Like each one-liner just tops the next one each time as it goes, and it outdoes itself over and over and over again that I couldn't even remember some of the lines from earlier on in the film because they were so overshadowed by what comes after.
It's you and me, huh? I don't care who sent you. I'm the Lord of the Harvest. Who's that? Some new health food bunch?
I love the opening sequence of Leatherface on the back of the truck wielding that chainsaw, the camera angle, the blue and red lighting. I was like, this is... Unfortunately, you can easily tell that bridge is like gone on for miles, or they're only driving like 5 miles an hour for safety reasons while shooting this. But I thought it was... That was crazy. I'm even going to call a favorite scene the poster of this movie. It completely apes The Breakfast Club. And that tells you right from the get-go, you can't take this film seriously because it's not going to either.
And unfortunately, The Breakfast Club is a better movie.
Depends what you're in the mood for, but yeah.
Hey, hang up, man. Hang up. Hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up. Yeah.
I loved Lefty going into the chainsaw store and looking at all the chainsaws. It's like, and then him just experimenting with the chainsaw outside. Loved that moment. And I'll also go with the jump scare where Leatherface emerges out of the darkness in the radio station. I was like, that was a brilliant moment.
Yeah.
Genuine, like, jump scare. So, yeah. Well, Ian, I think we all know the answer to this one.
I'm afraid I cannot recommend Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, look, Ian, you like comedies and this is funny. And I do, but this is not funny because they're trying to balance comedy and horror at the same time. And one of the things you should never do is take something as great as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and turn it into a comedy. Because you just ruin everything that you've built up of that character from the first movie. This movie, oh my god, like, two things that you should watch this movie for, I suppose, is Dennis Hopper running around with chainsaws and Bill Moseley being chopped up. I would like to say Leatherface, but I actually think this Leatherface it's down there with the Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the next generation. I just don't care. I don't like the mask. I don't like the suit. The saw is the most iconic thing about him, I suppose. And I'm not going to say, but yeah, my favorite bit was the saw. Like I said, Dennis Hopper and Bill Moseley are really great in this movie. Caroline Williams is okay as your female character to follow around in this movie, but she screams so much in sequences that lead nowhere that you just get... Well, I get kind of sick and tired of her, that I just want one of the other characters to come along and fucking chop her up into pieces. I wish I could say this is a great follow-up to the first movie, but I can't. But luckily, there's a third one.
Well, I am going to be recommended Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, but with a warning that this is a complete and total departure from the iconic original. This satirical and bizarre sequel really goes into the comedy hard, and it's really going to be hit or miss with fans of that original. But by today's standards, with so many atrocious sequels in this franchise, trying to capture the original magic, this avoids that. Does its own thing, and is highly refreshing and fun. I'd say you should watch this for the fantastic performance of Bill Moseley as Chop Top. It's unhinged, crazy, unpredictable, and wild, along with Dennis Hopper, who is chomping up the scenery. Caroline Williams was also great as the final girl, or the only girl, and I felt like she was a true scream queen. Tom Savini also on his A-game here, with some brilliant splatter and gore and makeup work, a true legend in his craft. So yeah, it's at cult status now. Mostly hated on original release, but I feel it's well worth a watch for horror fans, for the chainsaw is family. And after a decade of silence, the buzz is back. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.